and false news has become all too common. More alarming, some media outlets publish
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Post-Truth Podcast. I'm Zenni, and also you've got Jonny here, and our special guest, Timothy O'Connell. He is a major in the U.S. Air Force and a first officer at Southwest Airlines. He holds a B.S. in political science from the U.S. Air Force Academy and an M.A. in theology from the Liberty University. Tim served as a C-130 pilot in the U.S. Air Force with over 16 months of overseas deployment in Iraq and Afghanistan. He then transitioned to the Arkansas Air National Guard and joined the Southwest Airlines as a professional pilot. Tim is rated as a safety officer and instructor on the C-130 and currently serves as an instructor pilot at the schoolhouse and as a Dallas-based first officer at Southwest Airlines. Tim's a family man, a Reformed Christian, and engages in various hobbies, including cigars, aviation, technology, and podcast listening.
Yeah, you said it better than I could, man.
Does that sum it up?
Yeah, that's it. You got me in a nutshell.
Alrighty, and we're back. So before we went to break, we talked about talking about UAPs, which obviously is a very relevant thing.
Right, no, I don't know the lingo. I've seen crazy stuff, but I don't know.
Well, that's the new UFO term. Right?
Oh, okay. Well, I was in the old-fashioned days.
It's more broadly encompassing.
Okay, so it stands for
unidentified aerial phenomena. Because there's so many different things that, obviously sightings have rapidly increased.
Yeah,
I think as technology has become more capable and, just in general, I don't know, maybe there's more events than there used to be, but we've got a lot happening. And of course, a lot of the people, probably familiar with the news and the New York Times article from a few years ago. And
well, it definitely involves the Air Force because, you're the other people up in the sky.
Yeah.
You would think that I would know what was going on.
Yeah. Well, we just want to get into it with you as far as, pilots see stuff all the time.
This conversation is happening all the time in my life now. So it's really fascinating. And I've had some captains that are like sold.
Yeah,
that there is something weird going on, extraterrestrial, maybe.
Sure.
Like these guys have master's degrees.
Yeah.
Like they're solid.
Well, it's
dudes,
become a topic
convinced
that we can talk about.
The first best footage of it was
Commander Fravor, right?
Navy guy, right?
He was a Witten Navy guy off the coast,
pilot.
California, Pacific Ocean, huge event. That's what the New York Times article really was about a few years ago.
Yeah,
and then the Tic Tac video came from his experience, which is all, high-tech camera sensors and things like that. And they're getting these weird, experiences captured. And so I think Fravor and other military personnel have now testified before Congress.
You have David Grush, who's spoken to
Grush,
small branches of the military.
Yeah, 15-year veteran. You have more veterans coming forward now in, hearings and public hearings. It's made this topic, I think, more acceptable to discuss. So, what are you hearing? You said you're hearing a lot more about it now from military.
Well, it's just people out there in the system right now are seeing stuff. And so I think it is important to remember, like, you can see something and it can be unexplained, but then you will always have people who take the next leap, and it's not a logical leap. And they say, well, because I can't explain it, it must be X, Y, Z.
Sure. That's
the dangerous part. Because you get people animated about this, and they're convinced that it's aliens. They're 100% convinced that it's aliens. But the problem is the burden of proof there falls on the person. You can't claim that just because you can't explain it, that it's automatically going to be one thing and not another.
Sure.
So that being said, I have seen personally, I've seen a couple of just the incongruent bright lights that just disappear kind of stuff.
In daylight or nighttime?
Nighttime. It's always at nighttime.
Gotcha.
It seems like I haven't seen any of the videos or pictures that came out of daytime flying.
What is before you talk about the lights? What is the light signature of, let's say, a military or commercial vehicle? So you can look at it and be like, hey, I see those lights.
Should be the same,
right?
You should have like a red strobe, white strobe. It's possible that if they leave their wing lights on or something like that, you'll see a steady light. So that's why, like, lights are just going to go with aviation, right? It has to be something that stands out as like, well, that's not a normal lighting configuration for an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're talking about 20 years of flight experience here.
Yeah,
so
and
even
what
then, something
but
is.
But the thing is, all I've ever seen could be easily explained by saying that was an aircraft with a different lighting configuration.
Sure.
So for me to say that I've seen something weird is just saying I've, who knows why they set up the lights that way on an airplane. Or a rocket, for example, or something like that.
Sure.
I don't even know what a lighting configuration
You personally
of a
haven't
rocket
had
is,
the experience daytime flying a craft that you've never seen flies.
No, we nearly hit a UAV.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you
a drone.
A drone, a big one.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what model it was, but I'm 100% sure it was a drone, quadcopter type thing. And it was a big one. And it was in California going to Sacramento.
Interesting.
But that's not unidentified.
Yeah.
Even though I can't tell you make
Is
and
it
model.
recognizable? Like when you first saw it, were you like, okay,
it went by so fast.
Yeah.
And within a couple hundred feet of the aircraft, and we called it in,
Damn, that's close.
So, but they didn't. It wasn't on TCAS. That was the thing that really alarmed us. We should have seen it.
What is TCAS?
It's the traffic collision avoidance system that every aircraft operating certain altitudes is required to have. And so that means someone was illegally operating a drone.
I see.
So were you in a commercial plane?
Yeah, I was in 737 on that one. And the captain and I were like, holy smokes, because you hear about drones out there, but and we were pretty high up.
Like a big drone.
We're a big drone.
High altitude.
Really high altitude. And it was
what size would you say, like relative to a car?
It had to have been bigger than your little table right there. So it was a big drone.
I was thinking when you said it, you were thinking like room size.
Could be a car. As big as a car?
No. Well, I don't know. If they make them, I haven't seen those. That's cool G.I. Joe stuff, but I haven't seen any, drones like that.
Well, it's weird something to be that high altitude. That's obviously military or something.
Who knows?
Black Ops.
Yeah, and again,
Silicon
it's
Valley. So
you really don't know what kind of prototyping they're doing out there. It could be something for Amazon.
Yeah,
and that's why it's like I don't make that leap to say that I can explain what it was.
Yeah,
and part of the reason is because I'm pretty creative, and I'm on the bottom end of creative when it comes to humanity.
Meaning what?
Meaning that people are out there inventing stuff all the time.
Well, there's way more stuff in the skies now than there ever has been.
Oh, and there's also more low and normal orbit launch vehicles than ever before. And that's really where I think that a lot of this conversation probably should be steered, is to say, like, look, in the history of humanity, we really recently just started flying airplanes. But even really recently, we just started launching an immense amount of stuff into space.
Going into space,
And it's like, I don't know what those launch vehicles look like all the time.
Sure.
They should be advertised, but it is conceivable.
There's too many private parties out there.
There's other stuff going up there.
Rich folks with doing whatever.
There's also hypersonic testing, and I don't know what that visually looks like.
Yeah.
I want to show some of these pictures, though.
I would love to, and we're gonna throw them up so everybody can see them. But so you haven't personally had the experience, but you know others that have. That talk to you about things they've seen.
Yes,
right?
and
usually military pilots too talk about it. So, I mean, do you in the commercial realm? Do you come across commercial pilots who say, "I have seen this"?
These pictures and videos and stuff came from commercial pilots.
Commercial pilots. Wow.
And so, like, wait,
how many you got there?
I have one series of pictures, and then I have one video.
All right,
so
let's see them. Is this all from one event, or is this
I think. Well, the video is different, isolated.
Okay.
So you know how it goes. Friend of a friend kind of thing. Hey, look, you sent these pictures out.
Well, you're much closer to the skies than we are.
The best evidence we have out there is probably out on somebody's iPhone. I mean, some pilot's like, bro, let me show you.
So tell us what we're looking at here.
I don't know what you're looking at here.
Okay. Well, tell us how it came into your custody and all that.
A friend from my class.
Okay.
Yeah. You can swipe left.
So
and
this
right
was
there.
from him flying.
He's probably flying 37,000 feet. If I remember correctly, they said they were going over the Midwest when they saw this one. So, they've seen something similar to this in a lot of different operating environments in the United States, which is why I think if you're going to speculate about what it is, you would think, low Earth orbit launch.
Almost looks like a rocket or something.
It does.
But
it's that comet effect that you see there.
Is this the same? These two different incidents? Or
the video is the same.
The video is a different incident. And if you watch to the end, it does something kind of where it almost looks like it creates an atmospheric condition. It just looks like
this is pretty low altitude as well.
I'm pretty sure that these were all in the 30,000s.
Okay,
they were taken. I cannot confirm because
what's the city beneath? Do you know where the location is?
And I remember them saying I think the video was taken somewhere over the West Coast. So
that's for somewhere.
I don't actually know. So don't hold me to that.
Like, what's the scale
and that's the other thing. It's like you find these anecdotal things, and it's like a buddy, like, oh, look, a friend sent me this. It is conceivable that some dude cooked this up in his basement and just started sending it out. So it's like I don't have any proof that
it looks certainly real. It looks authentic to me.
I had a captain. The video came from a captain.
Now it's doing weird stuff.
That's where it gets strange.
Huh.
He was convinced that this was aliens.
Well, we call it phenomena. Oh, wow, what
Oh
is
my
that?
gosh, it looks like a portal's
It
opening.
sure
Yeah,
does.
it's weird. And I think depending on depending on your frame of reference from the pictures that you saw, I think that could be the same vehicle. Because you just depending
it looks
on
like
what's
whatever it, and we'll get into my thoughts about it because I also have what I believe is a UFO experience that I'll share.
I mean, this what we're looking at is part of the reason why they've changed the terminology here.
Yeah.
The UAP is broader. There's so many different theories on what these things are,
Well,
whether it's military technology or black ops tech or private party contract stuff going into space or spiritual explanations, otherworldly technology, dimensional. That's phenomenon kind of encompasses everything.
Yeah.
And that's
runaway civilization.
Yeah, they live in the core of the earth.
Okay.
Runaway civilization. Well, that or like let's say 100, 200 years ago, you had people like Nikola Tesla, some of the smartest scientists who made huge breakthroughs, or people funded by like Thomas Edison, or finding these discoveries. And the interest groups, I mean, everybody who was paying for scientific experiment at the time was these rich groups. And so there's theories that we had access to a lot of early technology very early, like way early than we know and experienced in the public. And so the idea is that maybe groups of these elite people took this early technology, started creating zones of the world where they live with this advanced technology and have been for 100 years or more.
It's a theory.
So kind of a Wakanda thing where you don't know they're there.
Right. And it would only be kind of a...
That's a good example.
Yeah.
There's so many different explanations. I mean, that's why to me it's important to talk to secondhand witnesses.
Yeah.
I mean, this is from a credible commercial.
Well, I don't know if it's credible, and that's the thing. It's
right.
like,
but the guy you got it from is right. I mean,
the video came from a captain.
Yeah,
he claims
Southwest
that
captain.
he took the video. Dude, there's no way of knowing if he did. I no way of knowing. And so, but he was passionate. I mean, we were flying at night, and he spent most of his time looking out there.
Yeah.
Like he really thought he saw something.
So when you fly with this guy, he's always looking out the
windows. I almost never fly the same people.
I see.
11,000 pilots. Chances are pretty good. You may not even ever see the guy.
But when you did fly with him, he was scanning the skies the whole time.
Yeah. He was interested in it. He wanted to know what do you think about this? Like, I told him, it's kind of the same thing I'll tell you guys. Like, the natural world we live in is full of wonder. I have not even scratched the surface of seeing some of God's creation here that is full of wonder. I don't have to go looking any further than what I already have in front of me to be impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
that's almost proof that there is something out there, right? It's like we don't even know what's in the ocean. I mean, it's
you don't know because you're a finite being, and this is a huge world and an even bigger universe, right? And it's like I believe wholeheartedly in God. I believe that God created the heavens and the earth.
Sure.
And so, but that doesn't take away from my sense of wonder. If anything, it grows it.
Yeah.
I mean,
the universe is vast.
Oh my gosh! And even if you just
the Bible, would say confirms the idea that you might be seeing some things in the sky that can't be explained. I mean,
well, there's all these ancient texts, the Bible included, right? There's all sorts of events in them.
Chariots of fire, and Ezekiel has an experience. When God came to the temple on his throne with the wheels within wheels. So it's like, I definitely feel like there's a precedent if you are a faith-based person that the idea of UFOs shouldn't be out of hand. It's almost like, well, is it sci-fi or is it like is it this thing that maybe
spiritual
it is
phenomena
that we're seeing activity?
I kind of see that and think, well, I love gadgets and technology.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely enthralled with engineering and like, for instance, I know that right now there's a huge amount of R&D being pushed towards hypersonic. There was some pretty big breakthroughs in fusion where they actually produced more than they put in, right? Which is a big deal.
There's a lot of advanced private contractor.
There's some big stuff happening in technology.
The big question people have in relation to that topic is: are these leaps in technology man-made, or are these leaps in technology being reverse engineered, right, from crafts that have been captured? And so a lot of the witnesses,
the supercomputer chip is that.
Yeah, a lot of the testimonies out there now are pointing a lot towards this reverse engineering idea. But I'm more curious, with your pilot background, how many instances have pilots talked to you or told you, I saw something, I don't know what it was?
It's happened with
common?
Three captains out of all the guys I've flown with.
Gotcha.
And so out of 100 captains or something like that.
Yeah.
Only 3 of them, but they were all recently.
Interesting.
In the last couple months. And so,
Okay.
Do you think that's like the reverse memory fallacy, or do you think it's that they're finally ready to talk about it?
Neither. I don't think it's about. I think these things are really happening now.
Yeah.
That they weren't happening before, and that they
Now
are. They're seeing stuff now. And we've classmates out there who have said, "Yeah, I didn't catch a picture of it, but I saw something weird as we were going over the Midwest, and it looked like this."
Huh.
So you're seeing a lot of the repeated stuff, like the same picture or video that I showed you is exactly what people are describing.
That aura type, or
it kind of looks like a comet effect or something like that. And it looks like
an consistency of something identifiable.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's identifiable, but as much as they can say, hey, we can relate this experience to the one that someone else
this
had.
person saw it, I've seen
right, but the variations in like UFO reporting is like, this guy says this ship had tentacles and whatever. And it's like, so it's like for a long time with UFO stuff, because it was that niche and it was cool and anti whatever. Because we went to that, what was that group that we went to the meeting?
That was a MUFON meeting, which is the oldest, research group in the United States.
Like SETI kind of stuff? Or?
Yeah, the Mutual UFO Network. It started in the 60s, and it's a group that essentially...
Forensics on UFO stuff,
yeah, they research sightings, and they go to what they think may be credible. They go talk to the people and see what, find out. They investigate. They investigate.
Footage and...
they find out what's real and what's not. And really, they only publish the stuff that they're sort of like, we don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll find out like, okay, this craft was in this proximity at this time. We're pretty sure it was this. But they publish monthly their findings on, sightings that they find credible, that are unexplainable. And so it's, it's certainly a topic that's become more current. And I think, like you said, these are things people are seeing now.
Yeah.
More. I
definitely think that you can say, objectively, you can say there's been more people claiming that they're sighting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the number of claims has gone up for sure. I said personally, I've seen some pretty traditional kind of, lighting configurations that don't match anything that I've seen for Visrecki in the Air Force.
Which could be a Lockheed project you don't know about, or whatever.
Who knows, right? And so hard to say on those. These things right here, I've never seen it, but I mean, it's like, okay, a lot of people are corroborating that they've seen the stuff. We just don't know what it is.
Well, a lot of it now, I think, is, it's more of an open forum for pilots to come forward. Used to, you'd be a pariah, if you came forward and reported.
You're probably right.
And that's, not only occurred in the military, but also in commercial aviation. Like pilots would not comment because then they'd be seen as a nut.
I will point out,
yeah,
I flew all over the world for over a decade and a half. And I never saw anything weird. Anywhere else. So, and now that's just, take it for what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of these claims are coming out of Russia.
Well, you're one pilot of 11,000.
Right. Yeah.
So, supposedly,
my point of course is that, and overwhelmingly, if you ask around like our guard unit or something like that, we don't have anybody who's like, yeah, I saw weird stuff in Afghanistan. It wasn't happening there.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything weird in the Middle East. I didn't see anything weird in Africa. I didn't see anything weird as we flew around Asia, coming over the Aleutians, in Alaska, nothing, right? So now that's anecdotal, but then all of a sudden you have the United States and you're like, most of the stuff that people are seeing that's weird is happening here.
And there's 3 in a row within a few months.
And you're like, okay, so we can at least start to narrow in and say like, okay, geographically, whatever's going on seems to be here.
Right? South America also is like starting to
which it doesn't surprise me if there's
definitely Western Hemisphere.
Hemispheric could be, and you never know. Like private entities, but the other thing I tell people too is like, because the captains always want to know, like, well, I think they want to challenge you a little bit to be like they have this belief, their worldview is now being informed by the fact that they think that there's aliens out there flying spaceships around, and because something can't be explained, that's a rational explanation to them, and they want to argue about it. This is what they want to talk about.
Yeah,
and this is way more fun to talk about than their boat.
I think that's great because I used to talk about this 20 years ago, and I was one of the weird kids.
Right? Yeah.
So it's great to have this actual conversation out in the open and people talking about it. And there's a lot of commercial airline incidents that you would probably love to read about from the past. There's some really iconic ones. One I can think of is Japan Airlines in the 80s. A pretty awesome event. Multiple pilots reported it, recorded it. They were basically sort of followed by a mothership type craft that it's sort of a notorious incident in this commercial, reporting, commercial airline reporting. But I think it's going to become something that's more common.
It could be.
as now that pilots know that it's a topic they can report on, not only military pilots, but also commercial pilots.
You also get the risk of confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Which is that you saw something that was actually totally normal, maybe just looked slightly different to you, and all of a sudden, because you were predisposed to think that you were going to find something like that, in your mind, you the way you recall the experience is way different than what really happened. And so you'll see false positives essentially like that as well. When I talk to captains about it, I kind of say that, like, look, I'm the guy who believes in an unseen God. The evidence of the God that I worship is creation.
Right.
And I believe in the Bible and a biblical worldview. But I cannot prove to you definitively in any form of rational conversation that Jesus Christ, who walked the earth 2,000 years ago, was the Son of God, died on the cross for my sins, and rose again.
Right.
I can't. So I'm the guy who believes that. Who am I to tell you that something else that doesn't have an explanation is implicitly false? Right. Like
yeah.
Look, I have faith in what is unseen.
There's a faith jump there.
And so do you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that your faith in seeing an alien aircraft is existentially going to be something that saves your soul, but I can't it wouldn't be right for me. It'd be kind of hypocritical of me to come out and say, "Oh no, just because you can't explain it with science, it can't be right." Well, it's like, hold on. I mean, that would undermine my entire theological, mindset.
Yeah,
that's definitely a hitch for a lot of people. Just religion, science in general, but like what you're saying is definitely true of like the idea of God. You can't have in a scientific context, right? Because you can't do the empirical method on God, right, to find out God.
According to my theology, he pre-exists that kind of scientific method.
Right. And that's kind of the whole Schroeder thing, whereas our mind is so in it that to get to the truth you're talking about, you have to get out of it, right? And so there's really no way to step back with the scientific instrument and be like, yeah, I've proven this.
When you guys have a podcast here called the Post-Truth Podcast, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so
do you like the name?
I do, and I think
it's the best one we come up with.
I like it because, at the end of the day, we all know that now we have, and I think it's true. A post-truth world is absolutely where we live now.
What we're talking about.
Yeah, it's very difficult
on that phone, right?
to know what's authentic. I mean, it's hard for news reporters, for example, for us to know what is real news and what's been blown out of proportion or underreported or whatever. Yeah. So, and so there's a lot of that kind of post-truth, but also even philosophically now, you'll find that in our country, more and more and more people don't have a black and white picture of what is right and wrong or what is truthful.
Sure.
And so
there's no absolute truth.
It's a gray world now.